All right, thank you so much for checking out the video. Before we get started, click on the red subscribe button and the notification bell. That way you know whenever I post a new piece of content. So today we're talking about one of my all-time favorite movies. It came out in the early 2010s. It is called Lincoln. This movie is tremendous. It follows one of America's greatest presidents as he is working to abolish slavery, to get the 13th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution passed, abolishing slavery, and, helping bring an end to the Civil War, the most damaging war in the history of our country. Hundreds of thousands dead, possibly 1 million dead, brother fighting brother. It was the worst conflict this country has ever had. We lost way more people there than we did in World War I, World War II combined, and I think all the other wars combined in the U.S. Civil War. So the movie sort of captures the essence of that in the first scene with a shot of and a very brief scene of some fighting, and then it just dives into it. And the rest of the movie is just a lot of people talking to each other, and he works behind the scenes to, buy some votes. He has to get a bunch of Democrats to cross over the aisle to vote for the amendment. And it really does a great job covering all of that. And then the movie concludes with Lincoln's very tragic assassination at the hands of John Wilkes Booth. But in between all of that is just a tremendous script, amazing acting, and a cast that is just completely out of this world. And it's all a bunch of names you would recognize. There's Dane DeHaan and Lucas Haas pop up in the first 5 minutes of the movie and then immediately disappear. You have James Spader as the sleazy behind the scenes guy trying to get all these votes. You have Lee Pace in a very underrated performance as Fernando Wood, the leader of the opposition party who's working to uphold slavery. You have Adam Driver is low-key in this movie for 5 minutes and is great in his very quick scene. And then you have the major performances, right? You have David Strathairn as the Secretary of State. You have Sally Field giving her absolute damnedest as Mary Todd Lincoln, who's constantly in this state of paranoia and decline as she is losing her faculties and dealing with grief and depression and anxiety that completely overwhelm her. And she's tremendous. This movie, across the board, incredible cast, incredible performances. And then really the two juggernaut performances of the movie are Tommy Lee Jones as Thaddeus Stevens. And he is awesome. He steals every single scene that he's in. He's bitter and nasty and angry, but also very human. And the movie does a great job of reminding us that he's a living, breathing human being who has, at the end, a very personal reason for wanting slavery overturned. And the movie does a great job of slow rolling that and then eventually revealing why he really does care and genuinely want to see Black Americans freed and integrated into society. And it does a great job humanizing him. So, and then obviously the big performance is the Oscar-winning performance that we get from Daniel Day-Lewis. And what's funny is every time I watch this movie, it's amazing actor, amazing actor, amazing actor. Spielberg brings it all together. And you recognize faces, right? Oh, that's James Spader. Oh, that's Adam Driver. Oh, that's Sally Field. And what's fascinating about Daniel Day-Lewis and in the performances he's won Oscars for in all of his best roles, you can't tell it's him. You can't tell it's him. You cannot tell that Daniel Day-Lewis is playing Abraham Lincoln in this movie, and it is unreal to watch. He vanishes so effortlessly into these movies. Between this and his role as Daniel Plainview in There Will Be Blood, and I'd say Bill the Butcher in Gangs of New York, he simply doesn't exist. You cannot tell it's him. He is that good of an actor. He's the only actor I think I've ever seen, and there's some damn good performances out there. I would think Tom Hanks' back-to-back performances in Philadelphia and Forrest Gump, which he won Oscars for both. You still know, oh, that's Tom Hanks. Daniel Day-Lewis is the only actor I've ever seen completely disappear into a role and you forget it's him. And he's tremendous here. He plays Lincoln with this very soft-spoken, slightly high-pitched voice. You can tell that he put all the time and research into the role, and he doesn't just like pretend to be Lincoln. He's playing Lincoln at sometimes his most vulnerable, and at this point in his life and his career, he's a little bit weary. You know, you can tell that the presidency and this terrible, terrible Civil War has weighed on him. And Day-Lewis really nails every single aspect of that. So Lincoln is a tremendous movie. It's one I've wanted to talk about for a while, and top to bottom, everything about it, the script, the performances, the directing, and it looks, Spielberg makes it look so easy because he just gets this tremendous cast, gives them an amazing script, turns on the camera and says go. And that's what this movie is. It's awesome. If you haven't seen Lincoln, this movie's like a 10 out of 10. The performances across the board are great. It's funny, it's smart, it's incredibly heartwarming, and it's very important. So watch Lincoln if you haven't seen it, and let me know what you think in the comments, and I will see you next Wednesday at 9 a.m. Goodbye.